when you start down, we see that the hands lower a ton. So there's a lot of speed coming from the hands in a downward vertical direction, and your body at this point is just playing catch up. Meaning by the time we're back to this same left arm position here, number one, your hands are stuck too close to the edge of your back. So rather than your hands working more in front of your body, which would be more in this direction, we see your hands have a lot of drop to them. So there is a direct vertical drop of the hand path starting down in the downswing, and this plays a big role in why you don't rotate. You can see how your hands just get yanked down to the ground. As soon as your hands lower as much as they do, the problem is your entire sequence gets thrown out the window. For starters, it's going to be very hard to rotate because your hands are carrying too much speed relative to the body. So the body won't be able to keep up by the time you get to impact. But then number two, another big problem is when the hands have so much speed, a lot of time that comes in a vertical fashion. Meaning you can see, like I said, with these lines that got drawn down, that your hands are dropping down towards your toes. They are not moving outwards towards the golf ball. Usually the more or the better that a player rotates, the more of an outward direction you will instinctively see with the hands. It's not a guarantee, but that's certainly what we'll see more often than not. When you see a golfer carry so much speed with the hands in such a vertical fashion downward like you have, everything gets thrown out the window in terms of sequencing and in terms of how you're going to get the club to the ball. By this point here, so by left arm parallel, that's one frame back right around this position here in the downswing. Like I said, your hands are caught a little too far behind your body. They're not in front of you enough. But what's most important to me is look how close relative to the target line your hips still are. So your body is not rotating fast enough, which directly correlates with the speed downwards of the hands. Now, as we continue on, number one, the club is going to stay a little bit on the steeper side. A lot of this has to do with that downward vertical drop to the hands. The more my hands race straight downwards, the less they move out. The less they move out, the harder it becomes to shallow the club. Because in your case, if you are just standing here and you're going to press down on this part of the handle, it's going to create a steepening effect to the shaft. So when you start down now, this club is coming down obviously a lot steeper than we would like. And so from here, now your hands are too fast, the club is a little too steep, the body's too slow, and that just creates a really poor environment for you to rotate through the ball. And essentially, you lose that environment. So what's going to happen now is you are going to create some sort of a compromise to try to get this club to shallow out at the last second. That compromise that you are doing comes in the form of pushing the hands out away from you really late in the downswing. And that's going to coincide with the left shoulder rising a lot and the right shoulder dropping a lot. The combination of those three things all work together. And it's not like you're instinctively trying to do this. It's happening on its own. But these three things happen in an effort to try to shallow this club at the last second, because right now it's coming down a little too steep. And so if we put a circle down where the hands are, you're going to see a really aggressive outward push of the hands late in the swing, right? Out towards the golf ball, even outside of the golf ball, right? You can see how outward the hands push is. You see that the upper body is still very close to the target, so we're not quite rotating that well. And then you're going to start to see as you're coming into this golf ball, the body's going to jump up, left shoulder gets really high, right shoulder gets really low. There's some form of early extension happening, and then because the body's stalled out and it can't keep pace, we get jammed up with this left shoulder that doesn't open up anymore, and we can see the hands exit down the target line and get all jammed up, and then everything just looks really flippy and stalled out here. Right, the club is exiting on a very vertical plane rather than a more horizontal plane with a more level shoulder tilt through the ball. All of these things can get better, but they need to get better from this backswing position where we need to make sure we can sequence the pivot a lot better. We need to get the body more involved in the transition. We need to get the hands less involved in the transition. And if we do that correctly, we can get this hand path to work outward early into the downswing, so that as you start down, you don't get stuck with the hands in this spot with that pull down. We don't get stuck with the body too slow, and we don't get stuck with the club too steep where now your body has to react to this, and that's where the stally, flippy impact position is essentially coming from.